Hey everyone, this is Barry from Power Apps Academy. Welcome. This is my very first tutorial video, so wish me luck. But really this video is for all you novices out there who are new into Power Apps and want to get a head start. I'm going to show you fundamentals of the stuff that I think you should understand to be able to start developing your own apps as quickly as possible. I know when I got into it, you find this technology, but there's quite a steep learning curve at the beginning, and you just want to get in there and start developing and making a difference within your organization. And it won't take long to get there, but there are some fundamental things that you need to understand. So I'm hoping this video is going to really help you guys to understand the basics and then get cracking with developing your apps. So let's go.
Hey everyone, sorry to interrupt the video. Firstly, thank you for watching this video. And also, as you may know, this is a brand new channel, so we are looking to build our subscriber base, and it would be so much appreciated if you could just click on the subscriber button somewhere down here, as well as the notification bells, so that you can be kept up to date whenever we release new videos.
Right, so here's the app that we're going to be looking to develop today. It's my first issue tracker app, and this comprises of a front end. As we can see over here, I can select some records in my issue tracking app, and then when I click on the records, it shows me the details for each record. Okay, and then I can modify a record and I can submit it, and that's going to write it back to the database. So generally what you find is each app has different components. It has a front end component, which are the various screens that you design. This is the one that I've done here, so knocks it up in a few minutes. And then a back end data source, which would be an Excel spreadsheet, or it would be a SharePoint list if you're on the sort of free or light versions. And if you want on the premium versions, you can use a common data source, which is a cloud-based database in Azure, or SQL Server, or loads of other web services. So, and the great thing is you can link to all of them at the same time and pull data and manipulate it and write it back. So fantastic opportunity to just do stuff with these kind of apps. But what's really important, as I said, is just to understand the fundamentals, and that's really what we're going to cover in today's video. So we've got the front end. I'm going to go into the app and delete everything and start again, so you understand how I put it together. But what's also important is to have the back-end data source. So what we are using is SharePoint lists. So I don't know if you guys have used SharePoint lists. I use them quite a lot with the apps that I generate. It's free to use. I mean, you could use Excel if you wanted to. It's very similar, but for this demonstration, we're going to be using a SharePoint list. And what we're going to do is just start from scratch, so you understand exactly how to do it. So if you log into your Office 365 admin portal, you can then go down to SharePoint, if I can find it, SharePoint over there, and we can create a new site. Now you might not see this in yours. If it's managed by your company, you may have to get your IT department to create a site for you. So just create a general team site, and we'll call it Power App Demo. I'll call it whatever you want. So this is just creating a SharePoint site, and within the SharePoint site we'll create a list, and that list is like a spreadsheet that we'll then use as a data source for our app. Okay, don't want any additional owners. Okay, so here's my new SharePoint site. Over here we just want to create a new list. Now we could just create a blank list and create all the columns or fields ourselves, but since Microsoft are kind enough to give us some templates, we're just going to use that, and we're going to choose issue tracker. So what this is just some predefined columns which relate to what the kinds of fields you would find in an issue tracker, and we'll just use the template, and we'll just call it issue tracker. Just so you know, issue tracker 2, because my original demo I already used one called issue tracker. Okay, so there we go. We've got our new list with all the relevant fields in it, and we can just I'm going to add 2 items into my issue tracker, right? So I can do it directly into the list without using Power Apps. So I can just go new, I'm just going to put in 2 items, so let's say broken screen, broken if I can spell, normal, new. I'm just going to have to use myself because I've only got myself set up. Today's date, and save that one, and add another one. Let's say stolen laptop. Pretty cool. Continue work. Right. Me again, unfortunately. Today's date. Okay, so hopefully this is pretty simple and you understand what I've done. I've just created a table, a database really with some records in it, and we are now going to use this to link to our Power App. Okay, so I've got my data source. So this is the Power App I created. I'm going to not use this one. So this is the demonstration one. So we'll create it again just so you know how we've done it. And I'm going to exit out of here. Save. Okay. Okay, so now we're going into the sort of administrator or user screen for Power Apps. Now this is basically the portal where you get all the different functionality of the Power Platform. So Power Apps, Power Automate, which is Flow, chatbots, and some other advanced functionality in there. So we're just basically focusing on Power Apps, and I'm sure you'll be doing that initially. And Flow is another one that you're likely to use a lot, and we'll cover that in a separate video. But today's video is really just about creating Power Apps. So we click on Apps, and there's nothing in there, and we are going to go to New Apps. Canvas is the one that should meet all your needs, unless you definitely know what you're doing and one of the other ones fit your requirement. If you're not sure, then just use Canvas app. That should be good enough for you. And what this does, it opens some options. So you can either start with data, but we don't want to start with data because that it connects the data up for you. We just want to start with a blank app so that we understand exactly how everything fits together, which is the really important part, because if it does it for you, you sort of lose out the understanding of how it's doing it or what it's doing in the background. Okay, so we're going to go for a tablet layout, give us more real estate on our screen, which is better. The other one, you can open this on your computer or on your phone if you download the Power Apps app, and it's really cool. Really easy to make these sort of apps, and they look good as well. Okay, so if you don't have the Power Apps app on your phone, you can download that from your app store. Okay, so now this is the interface, the design interface for Power Apps, and I remember looking at this when I started and going, oh, just clicking around, and I couldn't really make sense of it for a while. It was a bit of a steep learning curve, so I'm going to try and explain it as I go along. So here's your action bar. There's nothing here at the moment. On the left here, the main things are this tree view. When you have actually added items in here, you can select those items using the tree view. This data source, you can select all your data sources, and we're going to connect to one now. Those are your two main ones that you're going to be using initially, and that's what we're going to look at today. So data source, right? First we want to connect our data source so we can actually start doing things. Now, as I said, you don't have to add data source. You could just start on your screen. So there's an element of you can create loads of screens in your app, right? You can just go new screen and you can create as many as you want, and one screen could show some information, and you could click on next, and then you could open the next screen which shows some different information or whatever. But that's a little bit more advanced than today's objective, so we're going to delete that and just focus on one screen and a data source. So I'm going to go back to my data source just so I can add it in. I'm going to go to connectors. Now there's loads of different connectors. which you can see these ones with the diamonds have premium, so you have to pay extra. But we are just going to be using SharePoint today, so we'll search for SharePoint connector. Right, there we go. So we're going to add SharePoint, and what I do is I just go over here to this is the new site I created. This is my list that we've just created a few minutes ago. I'm just going to copy that URL and I'm going to pop it into here. I'm going to click connect, and there we go, issue tracker 2. That's the list we created, and that's where we wanted to pull the data from. So we select that and we click connect. Right, so that's connected that data source. So now we have a data source for our app, but we have a blank screen. So let's go back to the tree view, click on our screen. Now, what do we want with our screen? We've got nothing on it, so it'll look pretty cool with a background. So let's look for an image that we can use for our background. What have I got in here? Yes, there's the image that we used. I'm just going to open that. That's going to give us something that looks a little bit prettier than just a white page. And what should we do next? Shall we create so we'll go to insert. That gives us some options over here, and icons. So right now we're not worried about our data source. We're just adding a few objects to our home screen to make it look pretty. So this is just a banner, and we can add in a label. So we'll go in there. I mean, it's very similar to any other drag and drop design interface that you might have used with other applications. So this on the right is really the properties for each item that you add in here. So there's two places that you can find properties for items. It's either on here, you can go advanced, which we can cover later, but general properties, which is the ones you'd be concerned about for this tutorial over here. And you might also have a look over here for some of the properties, but generally if you're using galleries or forms, which you're going to cover a bit later, the properties of each of those you look over here, but the properties of anything else that you would find over here. Okay, so again, you probably find that a little bit confusing, but I'm sure it'll make sense as we go on. Okay, so my first issue tracker app. Okay, there we go. We can make it a little bit bigger. 18, bold. We'll actually make the color white so it stands out, and we'll put it in the center. So there we go. We've got a header for our app. Now we want to bring the data. So this is the important part. We want to bring the data that's in our database, and we want to insert it into our front page. There's two really important components to this, and you really need to concentrate and understand this because it's important. Okay, so the gallery component, what the gallery does is it looks at your data source, so in this case our SharePoint list, and it basically pulls up all the rows that you have in your list and summarizes them based on the fields that you define here. So if you have a look over here, this basic gallery is going to look at the title and the subtitle, which are fields in our SharePoint list. Okay, so we're going to click on our issue tracker 2 list, and you can see it's brought in the two fields that we have in our list, right? So this is what a gallery does. Basically summarizes all the rows that you have in your list and presents them so you can select them. Okay, so really important, and you can format this. So as I said before, your properties are all over here. So if I select, so my screen has now a gallery in it. If I click on the top level of the gallery, I can see the properties of the gallery over here. Each item within my gallery, I can click down here. So these are within the gallery. Okay, so I can go, actually, I want this to be smaller. Okay, I want this subtitle to be even smaller, and I want to move it around a bit. Whatever I do to the top one, it's going to do to all of them listed below. Okay, and we want that to be over there. I'm going to bring that up over here. Actually, I can move this up over there. Move this across a bit more. Okay, bring it over there. If I want to move the whole thing and go down a bit, I want to put a heading on there. I'll just put a label, and I can select an item below, an issue below. Okay, and I'll bold, make that bold. There we go. Cool. So that's really presenting the items in my SharePoint list on my app screen. Okay. Now, the next important piece is the form. Okay, generally when you add a form, it's always an edit, unless you just want people to look at it and not be able to edit it. But generally, you want people to be able to modify it. And so a form is the detail of that specific SharePoint list. So where I have a broken screen, do you remember when I was added in, I had to put all the other details in? When I click on that, it'll open all the details within that item. Okay, and I can also add and change them and do whatever I need to within the form. So the gallery is a summary of what's all the items on my list, and the form is the detail of each of those items. Okay, so we're going to add in the form. Okay, there we go. We don't want it sitting on top of our gallery, so we're going to move it over a bit. We're going to connect to data. So each, like a gallery would have a data, and I could have I could have the gallery pointing to a different data source than the form. It wouldn't make any sense, but each one you have to select its own data source. Okay, connect to data. I can see over here my form. Remember the properties on the side. Data source. What do we want the data source to be? We want it to be our issue tracker SharePoint list. Okay, so we just select that one. What it does now, it just automatically pulls all the fields from that SharePoint list into my form. Okay, and it displays in what it thinks, in the format it thinks is best. Now we can just use some preset defaults in there to change it around. So we might go, actually, we really don't want the attachments piece in there, because we don't want anyone to add attachments, and it's a bit big and clunky, and we don't really need it in there. So edit fields. So basically, so the form connects to the SharePoint list, brings back all the columns that are in my list, presents it in there by default. We can then use this edit fields to take out or reorganize the ones that we want to keep. Okay, so we want to take out attachments. We click on those buttons and then we click remove. Okay, and we can see attachments removed. Actually, we don't want issue source either, so we'll remove that. And then we want to say, we can reorganize these, reprioritize these. We can shuffle them around, assign to. You can move it over there. You can see it automatically moves it, right? So now I've got the items in here. I can use some other defaults. You can see it's looking at 3 columns. So I only want 2 columns. Okay, and let's say over here it's got the heading and then the field below it. Let's say we want it next to each other like that. So we can do that, right? And we can also, in other videos, I'll show you how to edit these further. But for this one, we just want to go, okay, what is a gallery? What is a form? Okay, because these are 2 really important concepts. Okay, so now I've got my gallery here. I've got my form here. The last thing I need is just a button, and we'll configure the button later. But if someone makes a change, we want them to be able to save it. So we need a button in there. When they made the change, they have to save it. So I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so now there's a little bit more configuration that we have to do, right? So we've got in here, when I click on this, you can see it selects the parent. And what that means is it says the row that this belongs to, okay, in the gallery. When you load the gallery and you give it a data source, it's clever enough to know which row belongs to which row in the SharePoint list. Okay, so it says this little arrow here, that will select the parent for this row, which means the row in the database. So now you have to configure the form to understand or link it to this. At the moment the form is just on its own, right, and it's not linked to the gallery. The way you link it to the gallery is you select the whole form. You just be careful because you can select items within the form or you can select the whole form. So you need to select the whole form, okay, and then you need to go to item over here, which is the properties. Remember I said this is there's some properties here, some properties here, and it's just a bit of a learning curve to remember where they are and where to find them, but the more you practice, the quicker you'll understand it. So the item that this form, the whole form and all the fields in it, relates to is, you click on this, right, so this is the form, this is the gallery. So if I click on the gallery, form, okay, gallery, form. So I want the form as a whole to relate to the gallery item that is selected, okay, and again you just need to learn this stuff. It's a bit of a learning curve, but sorry, gallery. The nice thing is once you've got all these items created, you just start typing them in and then Power Apps will show them, okay, and you can rename them to something a little bit more user-friendly, but for this we won't be renaming it. So gallery 1, which is this gallery, dot selected, okay, which is just a default function within there, and then you can see now it's populated those fields with everything that's in that row, okay, and it's as simple as that really. Now that one will have the same, right, so you could just remember in Power Apps you can click on the Alt button and then just select items. Okay, there's my stolen laptop record, back on broken screen, there we go. Okay, so it's that simple. It's now, this gallery is linked to my SharePoint data source, this form is also linked to my SharePoint data source, but this form knows which row in my SharePoint data source we are by linking it to this gallery. Okay, so those are some 3 fundamental concepts of Power Apps: is how to use galleries, how to use forms, how to link them to data sources, and how to link them together. Now this gets a little bit more complicated when you start using multiple screens, and you might have the gallery on one screen and then on the next screen it opens the form and you have to link it up. Now there's some really good tutorials on that, but that's a little bit more advanced. So hopefully this has given you a good understanding of those 3 core components. Now lastly but not least, we have added this button, and we want to, if someone makes a change here, we want to be able to write it back. So we there's a simple function for this in here. So on select, when someone clicks it, that means on select, you just go submit a form, which is a built-in function, and then it'll ask you which form do you want to write back, and we know we have our form here, which is called form 1. And we just close the bracket there. Oh, easy as that, right? So fairly simple. And the nice thing about it, right, is we can come in here and change these to something else. So let's just say issue, no, sorry, I like to just gallery, so we know it's a gallery. Just prefix whatever you name it to whatever it is, just so that you know what it is, because you always reference it later on, and the more complicated it gets, that you just want to keep it easy. So gallery, you can abbreviate that to whatever you want. So gallery issue select. Okay, now when I change it in here, it automatically changes it everywhere else. There we go, gallery issue select dot selected. And I can do the same with my form. So I could go form rename form underscore issue details, and that will automatically change it everywhere. Okay, so when I click on the button, there we go, form issue details. Now if I want to preview my app, as I said, you can use Alt button to basically test buttons within here. but if you want to just preview your whole app, you click on the play button, and there we go, it's pulled back my details. I can click on, there we go, broken screen or my laptop. Let's say this was actually a lost laptop, so let's go lost laptop, button. I should actually click save on there. So there we go, lost laptop. Now if I click back, it will remember that, so it's written it back to the SharePoint site. So so there we have it, a basic demonstration. Hopefully that made sense and gives you a good starting block for understanding Power Apps. Please let me know how you found the video. A thumbs up if you liked it, and let me know in the comments if there's anything I need to work on or change. I'd much appreciate it. So hopefully you found that useful. Have a fantastic day. Cheers.